Hi friend, welcome back to the channel where we focus less on trying and more on being the best version of ourselves. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit about the difference that releasing expectations and focusing more on the assumption makes when you're manifesting an SP, new love, whatever it is, but specifically, that's the scenario we're going to talk about today. The difference that makes in the results that you will get and the way that you will feel in the process, top tier. So if you really think about it, when you expect something to happen, there's a scale of possibility from very unlikely to very likely. Expectation is like almost there. It's like at the point of very likely, like this is probably going to happen. When you make an assumption, you already know that something is done. You already are solidified in the fact that this is what it is, this is the reality of the situation, and this is the truth. If you can move from looking at your specific person and expecting them to act a certain way, or expecting them to be a certain way, or for situations to play out in a certain way, and go to assuming this is going to happen this way, they are thinking of me this way, I am being this version of myself in a loving relationship with this person, being prioritized, being loved, feeling all the yummy, juicy goodness of a fulfilling relationship. You are priming yourself and preparing yourself, practicing to be the person experiencing that relationship. But if you say, okay, now I know that I can manifest my SP, this crazy girl on YouTube is telling me that I can, so I'm expecting that if I start doing these affirmations, if I start doing this visualization, SP is going to act in a certain way. If initially you begin to do that and there's still more that needs to be gone through in the self-concept, you didn't necessarily sweep all the nooks and crannies, more things are popping up, maybe you get a little bit triggered, you're wondering, okay, I expected something to happen that didn't happen. What's going on? Why is this not working? Initially, what's probably going to happen is you're going to do more. You're going to put the pedal to the metal. You're going to step on the gas and you're going to say, okay, maybe I didn't do it enough, or maybe I didn't do it long enough, or maybe I need to try something different. You already know. I rant about this all the time, about the work, because God damn it, some of you guys really make this a full-time job, and I'm trying to beat it into your head that it doesn't have to be. There is a simpler way, which is literally why this channel is called what it's called. More being the version of yourself and not expecting to be the version of yourself, not trying to become the highest version of yourself, but being there now, assuming that your wish already is fulfilled, and living in that assumption. That is what we call living in the end. If you come from the viewpoint of having this burning desire inside of you to have some form of love reciprocated to you in order to validate you, and it's like literally eating you up inside, please understand that that energy is not synonymous with being the version of you who already has this thing, where it's already done. Because a version of you who already had that unconditional love, who was having love reciprocated to them, would not be so worried about whether or not this other person wants to be with you, what they think about you, how they feel about you. You wouldn't be worried about all that stuff because you would know that you're the one deciding all of those things, and whatever you assume to be true about this person, about your relationship, and about how they feel about you will be true so long as you persist in that story. Again, I'm gonna reiterate, persisting and pushing are different, okay? I don't know how many of you are familiar with reality transurfing and Vadim Zeland other than what I've talked about on this channel, but he talks a lot about balanced forces. And I am going to read a quote from him in a second, but I want to explain this to you before so that we can be on the same page. So balanced forces are pretty much there as equalizers. So if you're putting too much importance on something, or too much focus on something, or excess potential on something, especially backed up by a negative emotion, balanced forces are going to come into play to try to neutralize the situation, to try to bring things back to an equilibrium. So if you're pushing, trying for something, a balanced force would be something that would stop you in your tracks and allow that momentum to calm back down to a place where everything is back at balance. So in some situations, this will play out positively if you're dominantly on the side of the positive story. Balanced forces are going to push you in that direction to stop the excess potential that's building up. On the other hand, if your dominant thoughts are on the other side of the fence and you're thinking negatively about the situation constantly over and over and over again, and you have built up anxiety, built up worry about this, Does he really love me? Does he really want to be with me? Is he thinking about other people? Am I his one and only? Am I chosen? Am I loved? Am I prioritized? If this is what you're thinking, if this is like really hurting you inside, in order to neutralize that situation, it might even bring in a third party or completely put you in SP and no contact, whatever it takes to get that energy back to a standstill and stop the momentum of too much energy being pushed into one direction. So with that being said, let's read this quote. Listen, I'm not always trying to be the bearer of bad news, but this is very important. And once you get these fundamental things out of the way, once you realize truly that there's no one to change but self, that you are truly creating this story, that it all comes from within you and your self-concept, once you're able to grapple with that and do what you need to do there, whether you just manifest my self-concept is perfect, or whether you like to do shadow work and really go in depth and figure out where everything came from, childhood wounds, trauma, if that's your zhuzh, if that's your bag, you should do that. Regardless, it needs to be handled. But anyway, the quote, here we go. So it reads, "The stronger your desire to have something or to experience reciprocated love, the stronger the action taken by balanced forces will be. Of course, if they choose a path that brings you and your loved one closer, then the story will have a happy ending. The direction balanced forces will ultimately take can easily be determined at the very outset. If you're preoccupied or obsessed with the need for your feelings to be mutual, and yet nothing seems to be going right, you need to change your tactics. Try loving without expectation of reward. If you do this, the unstable vibrations of balanced forces can be drawn closer and made to work for you. Otherwise, the situation may go snowballing out of control until it's practically impossible to change anything." Caveat, it's never impossible to change anything, but you can make things a lot harder for yourself. Don't make things harder for yourself. Okay, if you want your love to be mutual, you have to love simply without thought of whether you are loved or not. Firstly, in taking this approach, you avoid creating excess potential, which means that the 50% probability that the forces will work against you is avoided. Secondly, when you're not obsessed with the idea of whether your feelings will be reciprocated, you are free of the dramatic and uncontrolled thoughts about unrequited love that pull you into corresponding lifelines. Quite the opposite. If you simply love, without the thought of possession, dependency is avoided, and the parameters of the energy you radiate will correspond with those lifelines where requited love exists. If you've already discovered requited love, then you have no reason to be concerned with the issue of ownership and possession. Imagine how greatly your chances of being close to the one you love will increase for having given up the notion of possessing them. Besides, unconditional love is a very rare and attractive quality, and so if you can embody it, you will automatically draw people to you. Would you not be drawn towards a person who loved you simply for the sake of it without demanding anything in return? That is a serious question. I want you to ask yourself that. I focus on this because I really want to hit it home. Because even in situations where people say that they're not controlling, they don't know what I mean by thinking that SPs are puppets or that they don't have any free will, it's sometimes a very subconscious thing. Because what you're not understanding is you're trying to force someone to change and to love you instead of loving yourself and letting them reflect that to you. And just being in a state where you're saying, okay, I want this person. This is my SP. This is who I've chosen to be with. This is what's happening. So if you're in the state of the wish fulfilled and you're in a loving, committed relationship with your SP, you love them unconditionally, regardless of what's going on, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what you see. If you can assume that state now of being unconditionally loving with no expectation of anything in return, but the assumption that it will be returned because you know that what you're projecting from the internal will be reflected in the external, then you have absolutely nothing to worry about. You've let go of control, you've let go of resistance, you've let go of negative expectations because you know the outcome will be positive. And like Vadim said, would you not be attracted to a person who loves you no matter what, who thinks of you always in the best light, who unconditionally cares for you, prioritizes you, wants to be with you, all the things that you want in a healthy, loving relationship? So if those are the things that you want from SP, give that to yourself and give it to SP before they even show up giving it to you. And know that if you persist in that story, if you continue to see them in that light, then they will reflect the exact same thing back to you. Okay? All right, you guys, that's going to do it for me today. I really hope you guys enjoyed and got something of value from this video. Please be sure to leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment box below, and check out the description for my social media links, services, all that good stuff is down below. And other than that, I love you all so much. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next time.